There's a lot of standing by. There's also concern that some of these other buildings might actually come down. This building right here with the glass that you see, the nearest tall building, that has structural damage as well. We saw a lot of glass broken out, and a corner of the building appeared to be in distress, and there's concern that there might actually be another collapse of that building. And I can also tell you that when we first got here, we were a few blocks up. We could actually see debris from one of the planes on the street, a huge gear at one point, looked like a piece of an engine at another point. So that debris is still littering that area up there. They had roped it off with police tape, and they had FBI agents out there, and that was just before the first tower came tumbling down and everyone went running away. So there's evidence out here. There's a lot of work left to be done, and as you can imagine, the streets are a bit chaotic at this point. But I just want to show you one drastic difference looking north as opposed to looking south. Blue skies, clear streets, going from the scene. Still, obviously, a major disaster waiting to be cleaned up. Back to you, John.
All right, Rick Leventhal in Lower Manhattan, thank you very much. A dark day in America, September 11th, 2001. Two planes strike the World Trade Center, obliterate it. It has collapsed. Another plane hits the Pentagon. It is still on fire, and we may not be done yet. Brit Hume, our Washington managing editor, is in D.C. Brit?
John, just some notes from our State Department reporter Terry Schultz. All U.S. diplomatic posts worldwide have been notified of what has happened here and have been encouraged to take what is called appropriate action. Ambassadors in such a situation have the right, should they choose to close embassies. It's worth noting here that Secretary of State Colin Powell is out of the country. He was down in Lima, Peru, is on his way back. He has released remarks saying that this is a terrible tragedy and adding, this is from Colin Powell, Secretary of State, the U.S. government will find those responsible at the State Department, which has been largely and has elected to stay in the building. So that is the state of play here as we continue to watch fire, which, as you noted, is still burning at the Pentagon, and we watch, obviously, the southern skies to see whether anything comes of this report of a plane bound here. I should add to that, by the way, this report to this business about a plane being on its way here, that that Senator Kent Conrad, remember the Democratic leadership on the Hill, chairman of the Budget Committee, told our Colin Spencer just a short time ago that he was aware that 16 U.S. warplanes had been scrambled and were in the air in this area. So any airplane, I think, that attempts to attack Washington or crash into it is probably going to have to contend with them, and I wouldn't want to bet that it would ever happen. But it does raise the possibility, of course, of an ugly incident in the skies in or near Washington. John?
Britt, we know that President Bush is okay. We know he is on board Air Force One, but it would seem that they are not going to be bringing him back to Washington at this point.
And in familiar surroundings and seen in familiar surroundings as soon as possible in an effort to calm the nation. This is a nation right now, mind you, except for the things that we have been able to quote, that except for the remarks, and the additional remarks that we heard from President Bush earlier this morning, just before he took off from down in Florida to come back here, this is a nation that has not heard publicly from its government. And at such times, obviously, it is characteristic of a government that you send somebody out, they stand before a camera, they tell you what the state of play is, they furnish information, they seek to assure people. Under these circumstances, with people evacuating buildings in Washington and everybody on a high state of alert, it's understandable that wouldn't have happened. But one has to imagine that the administration will want that to happen as soon as it is safe for it to happen. So I would imagine that the president is headed in this direction, whether he is headed to the Andrews Air Force Base right outside Washington where he would normally land or some other location. Obviously, we don't yet know. We've got an eye on that for sure, though.
Is there a broadcasting capability aboard Air Force?
I don't think he wants to be broadcast, with Americans in the streets and others, people within government buildings on fire and so forth. My guess is that he's going to want to be seen, but we'll see about that. He could, of course, broadcast from Air Force One if he chose to.
Brit Hume, our Washington managing editor. The pictures tell the story, folks. It is an awful day in America, and your lives, safe to say, will change from this day forward.
Currently by an American Airlines plane. This one, we believe, from Dulles to Los Angeles, 64 people on board that plane. At At 9:45, the Pentagon hit the south wall. That's the area where the helipad is. There's now a gaping hole of about 100 to 150 feet there. The sirens still wailing in the Pentagon. As we know, key personnel are staying in the Pentagon trying to keep control of the situation. Just about 15 minutes after that, 80 miles southwest of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, another airplane crashed.